Hi.
Oh gosh, she already started that. All right, I guess it's time. The recording's in progress. That must mean it's time. So what I asked is that if people try to have some paper and pencil or pens or something handy, so we go through and kind of camera and just, because what I really want us to do is kind of actually go through this together. And I'm going to, with that said, I am going to share my screen and get started here. So share my screen. Why? Okay, let's go to this was the right screen, but let's get to presenter view. So here we are. The only thing I hate about this is I cannot see. So science and literacy. Science doesn't stand alone. Science really can't stand alone. And it just can't. So who's in the room, what I'd asked, and we're such a small group, I don't think this is necessarily necessary. But, you know, some people may not know each other. So maybe just type something in the chat, your role, where you're coming from, what brought you to today's session. And that's about it. Just kind of put it in the chat there. So I'm going to give you just a minute to do that. And I'm going to try to find the chat, because doing all of these pieces at the same time sometimes makes me nuts, but I'm trying to do that. Okay. And then, who am I? And as you take a look, you can see that I'm lots of different people with lots of different roles. Obviously, I was a former elementary educator for many years. I have since left Vermont and moved to Massachusetts to be next to these wonderful grandchildren of mine, who I would miss dearly. One of the things I'm most proud of as an educator was having the VSTA name the service award after me to hand out to elementary educators. And I hope, Maggie, you get lots of applications for that award. But anyway, that's kind of who I am. I currently, in my day job, one of my day jobs, I currently work for the Wade Institute for Science Education, and we provide professional learning for science education. And there's some pretty cool stuff there if you go and you check out that website. So, and now if I can make the slide move. I wanted to just take a minute to do the land acknowledgement of the land and whose land we stand. Obviously, I'm on the land of here in Milford, Mass, of the Nipmuc and the Wampanoags in Massachusetts. But we're visiting today, and some of the participants are on the lands of the Abenaki, of the Mohican, of the Pennacook. So I just wanted to kind of make that acknowledgement. So what I'd like everybody to do is to look at this chart, and please type the phenomenon number that best represents how you are feeling today and why. You know, are you eating carrots, or you just get your head above water? Kind of, where are you? Blooming? And Maggie, feel free to do some reading aloud of some of the stuff, because it's hard to keep up for it sometimes for me when I'm doing this.
5, 3, 5, which is why my camera is off, because someone's eating a salad. I am not eating salad. I'm definitely eating fried chicken right now. And 6, COVID storm is relentless. Yes. Yes.
I'm going to
3.
say
Yeah, go ahead.
for me, I'm feeling very 2-ish because I'm so happy to be here with my colleagues.
And agreed. Teaching hybrid all day. Woof. That's rough, man.
Okay. Now if I can get. So the one thing I do want to say is I'm going to kind of is that when I'm talking about all children, I'm really talking about all children, and from English learners to gifted and talented. And I want to change this slide because it says English learners, and what I want to change it to is multilingual speakers. This is a slide that I've had for a while, and I now notice that disabilities is spelled incorrectly also. So thank you, but I'm moving on, but all meaning all is really important to me. So science doesn't stand alone. And for me, it is an equity issue. It's a huge equity issue, which is why I kind of wanted to talk about it tonight. Anybody who knows me, and many of you in this room know what an advocate I am for elementary science education. But it's because, you know, every child has that right to quality science education. And, you know, they come to us ready to think and question. They're speaking and listening. I mean, I was just thinking about my 2.5-year-old grandson, you know, and right now he's mimicking, but he is really listening to everything that's happening and sharing that back with us as his way of letting us know what he's learning. And the fact that, you know, they come to, we don't live life in silos, and our children already come using and doing science and applying language. And we just need to remember that's what they bring to us. So yes, science doesn't stand alone. That science supports students' literacy developments, and literacy supports students' sense making in science. And that we just really can't allow science to be bullied out of the curriculum, because it's bad for both of the disciplines. It's bad for science, and it's really bad for literacy too. Nell Duke has done some, made some excellent videos talking about some of those reasons too. So, and yeah, a picture says 1,000 words, and you know, these are just some pictures that I just kind of gathered and I was looking at. And I was thinking of your classroom many times when I was making this, Susan, you know, of all the things that they're doing, that I know they're doing outside and engaged. I took this, this was a tweet from Next Gen Science on their Framework Friday. And I'm going to read it because I think it's really important. Children entering kindergarten have surprisingly sophisticated ways of thinking about the world. In fact, the capacity of young children from all backgrounds and socioeconomics levels to reason in a sophisticated way is so much greater than has long been assumed. Although they may lack deep knowledge and extensive experience, they often engage in a wide range of subtle and yet very complex reasoning about the world. And that comes from my Bible, the Framework for K-12 Science Education. That is my go-to booklet. Even more so than the standards now, because it's really got me thinking about parts of it has really got me thinking about the way I would want to be teaching science in the classroom now. So having said that, I'm going to not stop share, but go to escape, and we're going to do something. This is all hyperlinked the in the resource documents, and actually I'm not sure I been sending that, but so I've got this all set up, so I'm going to start from here. I want you to, on your piece of paper, we're going to watch a very short video, probably about 30 seconds, and I probably will play it more than once. And I want you to think about your notice and wonders as we do this. And some of you, I'm showing my age, by the way, just for the record, because of this toy, who's been around for 100 years. Now you can find them in fuzzy faces, little ones. I think I have at least 30 somewhere in a box, but that I bought in party packs so that each child could have one when I've done this. And I've done this, by the way, with third graders, and that's what most of the focus will be because of the standard, but let me show the video first of all. What are you noticing, and what can you wondering about?
Kathy, we can only see the PowerPoint.
Oh, thank you, Maggie.
You're welcome.
Not sure why that happened, but of course, best laid plans of mice and men and Kathy. And
I think it's because when you share your screen, you share only the PowerPoint. If you share your desktop, yeah.
Okay. Well, let me go back and find where it is. I don't need the ad. All right.
Is the video embedded in the slideshow?
Actually, it is.
So maybe you could go to slideshow present and then play the video, maybe.
Maybe that would be easy. The reason it wasn't, I didn't do it that way was because I wanted to just watch it from 12 seconds. So we don't have to, let me move it ahead. Can you see it now after I know it yet? Because I haven't shared my screen. So I'm sorry. This is,
it's the nature of
normal.
the beast. It's
It
the
is the
nature of the Zoom.
I think we can all relate.
Absolutely. I do remember this guy though. I mean, you're not showing your age. I think
Oh,
most of
yeah,
us
yeah.
remember this guy.
Now I'll try it again. Notice and wonderings.
And is there a video playing or just the still picture of Wooly Willy?
There's a video playing. You're not seeing that? Okay.
No.
I give up. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why that's.
Is it the link that you have in the resource?
Yes. Maybe you can make it work better than I can, Maggie. Yes.
For a new generation of kids to enjoy.
Without voice.
7 board with an illustration of a ball.
Without voice?
Without voice.
Okay.
Thank you, Maggie.
You're welcome. I mean, I was never this good at that. Like, that is for sure.
And
that
probably we can stop now. That's it. Yeah.
Do you want me to do it? It was only
Do
30
it one more time from,
Okay.
and it's from 12 to about 57.
All right, Kathy, you can share your screen again.
All right, thank you. And again, so I'm assuming we have some notice and wonderings. People have got some notice and wonderings. Because now I want you to I want to give it this. I want you to think about what you saw and think about these things. You know, how can we really begin to explain what we saw? Draw a model that represents what you think is happening and why you think it's happening in your science notebook, or as I ask people, on a piece of paper. And remember, words, pictures, symbols, all of those things can all be part of your model. And I'm going to give you all a few minutes to do that. And then the second part of this, if you're comfortable doing this, and this link should be, one of the things I sent was a document that had all of the session links for you. And this link for the Jamboard, after you've drawn your model, you can take a picture of it and upload it onto our Jamboard. And if all goes well, I'll be able to show the Jamboard afterwards. I'm not going to worry about that.
Kathy, the next problem is that the Jamboard is view only.
Of course it is. I'm going to stop share for 1 minute. And I'm going to try to fix the Jamboard, which
Not gonna lie, while we're waiting for this, I love Jamboard. I use it all the time. Also for office shenanigans, because I don't know if you knew this, but the further right you go, you add more pages. So sometimes at my agency, it's all very stoic And then you go to the last page and there's a picture of Nicolas Cage. Like, boom. Jamboard. Shari, is that a cat? Is that a cat that I saw in front of your screen?
There it is. You ready?
Yeah.
So I've changed the setting. Let's see if that will work now.
Yes on the cat, and yes, Kathy, it's allows us to share now.
Okay, thank you. So now I'll open now I'll share my screen, and hopefully we'll be seeing some of the Jamboards. Wait a couple more minutes to see if we can get a couple more stickies. The thing about Jamboard that's pretty cool is that you can do stickies. You can also put in pictures, images. You can add text. Yeah, I really am become a big fan of Jamboard. Especially in this world we're living in. It's one of the ways that can help us make things so much more interactive with our students. Well, the original plan was that we would go into breakout rooms, but with such a small, intimate group, I'm thinking we can just have some conversations about what are some of the things that people noticed, wondered, saw. So, and those of you who are still working on your models, that'll give you still some time to take your picture or and upload it or write your sticky, sharing your ideas and your thoughts. Questions are welcome. Questions are especially welcome. So having said that, I'm wondering what questions people do have at this point about what was happening. Oh, nice job.
I have a question. This is Susan. Because I work with first graders, I do a lot of modeling first, and I noticed you just were like, list your noticings and your wonders. Like, are you kind of just going with the assumption that you've already talked about that with the group? Like, or are you really just seeing what you get for a response?
I'm really just seeing what I get for a response, because this is their initial thinking. This is, this does a lot of things. It really, it's a good way you can assess, formatively assess from the very beginning. You know, I might have primed depending on, so in your age group, I wouldn't be doing magnets, I'd be doing something else, but probably, but I would be doing, you know, I might read 2 pages from a story and say, I wonder what's going to happen next, you know, and then go into showing something like a phenomena, Susan, like this. I'm
Mhm.
trying to think of what I would do at first grade, but I, off the top of my head, because I had my head wrapped around third at the moment, I haven't really thought about it. But plants, you know, or living things,
Mhm.
you know, thinking about, I think about like a log that you'd see out in the forest, in your forest classroom,
Mhm.
you know. You might have them just go out and look at that piece of dead tree on the ground
Mhm.
and say, you know, what do you notice? What do you observe?
Okay,
So,
thank you.
okay.
Yeah, you know who does a lot of that, and I love listening to him speak. Brett Molding, whenever he does his professional development, he always starts with these phenomena, and so because like usually he has like such a mixed group that based on the age group of the educators that are like, we all pick out different things that we notice, and you know, at doing it as an adult, you actually end up having a lot of like robust discussions, because all of a sudden I'm like, I'm noticing something that you don't really notice. And like, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I really, really like this. As I work on phenomena-based instruction myself, so I can then help teachers. You know, when the standards first came in, when I was still in Vermont, I mean, I really wasn't thinking phenomena. That hadn't been part of the conversation. This has been a growth trajectory for me too. But it makes so much sense to me to start with that complex thing or problem and just see what the students are thinking. What do they already know? And remembering, because thinking about in this current world and equity too, what are they bringing to the table from their home life? What are they bringing to the table that they already know? Like, I might get on something like this, I might get this model, but I also might get a picture of a refrigerator with a magnet stuck on it. And that's perfectly fine, because I'm learning something, and now I'm understanding something about that child's thinking too. All right, I'm going to now go back to the PowerPoint. You're
Just
going to have access to all of this, by the way.
I did want to just point out that Adriana in the chat had mentioned like time lapse videos of like forest soil, chick development, condensation. I think that, you know, in situations where we find ourselves in that hybrid, unfortunately, hybrid or remote, you know, world, there are really cool videos that elicit interesting responses. I know that Peter McLaren likes to use the video of the trapeze artist and landing on like a net with leaves, and in a virtual atmosphere, we're still all coming up with different sense, like we're all sense making differently. And it's absolutely relying on those virtual tools. Obviously it's not as good as like in person, but we do the best we can.
Right. And I want to tell you that as we go through this a little further, there's an excellent video that I really love in this PowerPoint that I'll share. Okay, we've talked about the model, so I'm just going to move on to the next one and talk a little bit about, so what we've really done is we've really done the beginnings of an anchor phenomena routine. We're not going to have time to go through a lot of it because I want to get to the more the explicit literacy connections, but I want to take a minute just to talk about what I would have done. So I'd have looked at everything that was in there, and I might have had kids begin to group what they saw. I might have them begin to look at similar and related items, like where else have they seen those magnets? You know, what other experiences have they had? And I would have really elicited the questions about, and I'm really where I want to go with this is to non-contact forces, to force without touching, because that wand never touches those iron filings in the Woolly Willy. It's moving it, but it's moving it over a piece of plastic. And how then getting into, as we go forward, if we were continuing to investigate from the kids' questions, we would move forwards to those investigations. And we would say, okay, so what do we need to figure this out? Like, what do we need to explain how that Woolly Willy really works? What investigations do we need to do to answer that question? And that, so anyway, that's what would happen in the long flow of what we're doing at this point. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. And here's just a grouping of the questions. You know, kids might have put some of these questions together. So this is what a Jamboard might look like of questions, or the beginning of your driving question board. You might not get exactly the question you want to get. So I've often told teachers, just make sure you put a sticky up on the board for yourself too. So to make sure you get what you'd like to do, because you know, as a teacher, what investigations you need to get to the understanding that's appropriate for your students. And again, I'm not sure why that just happened, because, but let's try this. No, I'm going to escape for just a minute and go to the next one, which there's no hyperlink. This is just, this might be one of the next investigations. It might have been around, so what do magnets do? What will it attract? What might it not, you know, what things will it pick up? I happen to have, or I did have over here, I'm not sure what I did with it, but one of the things I've used for magnets, and now I've managed to misplace it on my small desk, so we're not going to look at it. Oh yes, yeah, no. So we're not going to, but I did find, you know, thinking about similar items we might have around our homes. At one point, I was going to have you go do a magnet scavenger hunt in your area, but I decided for lack of time, we won't be doing that today. But that's something you might ask children to do, especially in this remote learning. Okay. So I want to stop just for a minute, because I really want to make sure that we're thinking about the equity piece of this. So from where I started to where I am now, how do you think equity has been addressed? And just we're small, just talk.
I thought the check-in was accessible to everyone because it was viewing the video, the little, whatever they were, the little memes. So you didn't have to be able to read to see those. So I thought that that was an activity that was accessible to all.
I also liked how in the Jamboard, when we were just like putting down our noticing and wonderings, there really wasn't an opportunity for anyone to be like right or wrong. It was just what folks are noticing. So there's more entry points for students, or I think so.
Yeah.
All voices are heard as well. So not just entry points, but every voice gets to be heard and all work gets to be seen.
I think by creating a common experience or a common observation video, or if you were in person, you could pull out the 30 Woolly Willies. You're leveling the playing field and giving everybody a common experience into the learning.
I think you guys have nailed it. I'm surprised. What an interesting class of students I have, of participants I have. Okay. Stretch break. Seriously, just take a second. I don't know how. Maggie, how am I doing on time? Because
It's
I'm all
6:35.
right.
You go to 7. And then
Yeah,
I unfortunately, you're the co-host. I have to do bedtime routine at about like 7:10. So
but
you
if people
got
have
time.
questions, I can stay on for a few minutes anyway. So,
I try to,
but I wanted to,
trying to mute
I wanted
myself
to
because
give
I've got
people just a
Pete the
movement
cat.
time.
screaming in the background.
Yeah, just
But it's the
just a
nature of the
movement.
pandemic, right? Like
Yeah,
dogs bark,
yeah,
children's shows are loud.
yeah.
Yeah. In the last session, I had my child on my laps. It is what it is.
All right. I just wanted to take a, seriously a break because I don't know about you, but I've been at this computer all day pretty much, and I've had to make sure I got up and walked a little bit here too. So, all right. So we talked about how will we use literacy so far? What you think about in terms of literacy?
Students are writing their answers, so they're having to be able to write.
And terminology was not that important at the start of the activity. We just wanted to see what the initial idea was.
I noticed when I looked at somebody else's that they used the word shavings, and I didn't think to use that word, and I was like, oh, that's what those things are called. So I've learning vocabulary from others was pretty cool.
I would agree that
Speaking
by sharing other people's work, you're increasing the language in the room just by seeing what other people have.
Yeah, I was going to say speaking and listening is a big one, as that's the one that comes up. And I don't know why this is happening, but I don't know why the doing the science, which I want to be first, why it animated second, it came up secondly, but doing the science, observing the phenomena, speaking, discussing about the models in the breakout rooms that such as they were, writing observations, recording observations, symbols, etc. Reading the questions on the driving question board. So even without, I haven't explicitly done any quote explicit, I haven't showed you a text, I haven't talked about anything yet in terms of explicit literacy, but we've been doing it. And that's what I mean. The science cannot, and it doesn't stand alone. So I'm just going to hammer that one home again. And now, if I can make the slide change, we'll be just fine. Oh, it's really doing other things. It's not changing, but it's doing nice things. Science doesn't stand alone. One more slide, and then I'll escape and go to the next slide. I have no idea. My slideshow has a total mind of its own. I have no idea. All right. So now I do want to take a minute and talk about text and the using of text. So I said that if we had been doing this in a whole routine where we had time, we've gone through the anchor phenomena routine, we've built our driving question board, and we're getting ready for investigations. And I kind of want just to get the kids thinking about what that might look like. So I might read these 2 pages aloud to them. I hold my magnet over my desk drawer. A paper clip jumps up to meet it. That's fun. I wonder why that's working. My magnet makes a paperclip jump. A paperclip jumper. That's an invention. But I want to make something better. And it goes on. I decide to see, I'm not going to read the whole 2 pages. But point is that you can use text and you don't have to use all of text. You can take just a little piece of text and use it. Like this might just be to get your investigations going, attracting what's attracted, what do the magnets pick up with my fishing wands, my magnet wands, which is the one I couldn't find, but so I might use this just prior to that. So that might be a place to use that. Again, it might be to just set the stage for this investigation. So now, just think about this. This, by the way, is one of those things that you can just find and amazing to watch and to help let students, again, another option, another way to do notice and wonderings. Here we are. But now the magnet's not moving iron shavings or iron filings. The magnet's moving, magnets. So how is it doing that? It's not touching it. So that's lots of opportunities. And by the way, I went looking for this one again. I have no idea where I got it. I can't find it. So it's probably the only thing here that's not sourced. But I just wanted to let you know it's in the PowerPoint, but I can't find the source for it. So in your science notebook, and I'm going to go back, what I'd like you to do is to just, in your own words, write what you think you know so far about how magnets move other magnets without touching. And I know I'm talking to the choir, but I'm just providing an example here of what this might look like. And I want to tell you that to this day, I still have science notebooks and I'm still buying and changing all kinds of them. So normally I've been using this one, the wide ruled one, which has just wide rules. But my newest purchase is this, and it has pages like this, and just like a primary. So I have graph paper over here on one side, and I have a place to write, and I have a place to draw on the other. And I think this is probably, out of every science composition book I have bought over the years, and let me tell you, there are many, because I'm never happy or I want to try different ones. I think this is the one for me. So Amazon is where I got that one.
Kathy, it was a little hard to see because it's in presentation mode still. Can you show us the cover of that
Sure.
science notebook again? Thanks.
Yes, I can. Can stop share. Thank you, Susan, for telling me that.
Yeah. Okay, just called Science Notebook on Amazon.
On Amazon. And look, it does the graph paper, and it's, it's bigger than this, obviously, which I like. So that's just, it depends on your
Thank you.
preference, right?
Thanks.
So let me go back to where it was.
There's a middle school teacher here in Vermont that their holiday is May the 4th because they are a huge Star Wars nerd. And she runs Millennium Falcon races using magnets and, repulsion. And she does that kind of stuff with like larger magnets. It's really cool. I did, I know that Shari in the chat dropped a video link to something that was similar to what you showed, Kathy, but it's crazy. Like and yeah, you are preaching to the choir, but man, science is cool. Like,
Oh, it is.
it's just
And
so
you know
cool.
what? I had so much fun making this presentation. Let me tell you that, because it allows me to really engage again and do some of these things one more time, which is a huge piece of when we do this with kids, to remember that it really helps if we've gone through it as students, so that we can really begin to anticipate the things that they might say or the questions that they might ask. And I know that when I was in the classroom, I was not doing that. I wasn't, I just wish there were days that I wish I could just go back just again for just a short period of time to really, really try some of these things that I totally so believe in now. Okay, and just moving on. So you've written in your science notebook kind of where you think you are. As a teacher, I probably would have checked those just to get an idea of where everybody is. But now I know, and I think, okay, so we've done 1, 2, 3, 4 investigations. We've watched some videos. We've looked at a little bit of text. Now I think it's about time to give you a little bit more information. So because we're in this virtual world, I would highly suggest you go to epicreading.com and you can find lots of text. And this one is definitely there. I'm going to take you there. We're going to look at this ourselves for just a minute, I hope. Are you seeing the book now in Epic? Or are you still seeing just the PowerPoint?
We're seeing the PowerPoint, but I can drop the link if you have it.
I have the link. I can drop the link. There's the link. And this site is free for teachers. You just have to register. And it does so many cool things. It reads books aloud, or if I was using it in this instant, I would probably just read it aloud. I would hopefully be sharing my screen the way I want it to be sharing my screen with kids, and I would be able to read the book aloud. The reason I'm doing this at this point is we've had some experiences, we've done some things, but now I wanted to give them some more information because I think they're ready for it. So I'm sharing some of those things. And this is one way to do that. Now I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. So now I'm going to say, we've now read this book. We've read Discover Magnets, or part of the Discover Magnets. So what I'd like you to do is to think about this sentence frame. And as you see, I wrote January 18th, 2022, cold and dark. That's how I started my observation, my recording in my notebook. And I wanted us to say, I wanted you to think about this sentence, these sentence starters. Now I know that magnets, and then blank, 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 and you complete the sentence. The evidence I have is blank. And I didn't get into the reasoning, which could naturally come first. But one of the things I want to make sure I do before I actually I know that I want kids reasoning. Don't get me, I'm not saying that. What I want, but I want to know that they know the difference. They know what the evidence is before. They know the data before we begin to complicate it a little bit with their reasoning and their scientific reasoning, because kids often mix up evidence and reasoning. So that's why I did it this way. Because I'm really looking for evidence. So the other thing we have is this, and let me find the link. We're gonna have checking my time. I'm not gonna go to the link, but this is an article online for Time for Kids on the maglev train. And there's a short article that the students could read, again, giving us more information about this topic. And actually it went there because I clicked on it and it went there, which means I probably can't get out of the slide. So one of the strategies that I haven't talked about yet is this close reading in science. And I created this chart adapted from something I originally saw a while ago. And it just something I've used sometimes when I want kids to really think about or pay attention to what they're reading. And again, remember, I'm not using this asking them to read a whole book or a chapter. I'm usually using this within a very closed set, a piece of something. It could be used in a bigger space, but I see it. One of the things I think that's really important for us all to realize, we don't have to use the whole book. We don't have to use the whole poem or whatever. We need to be able to focus in on what's important for whatever we're trying to teach. Does that make sense? Or am I, Susan, I'm looking at you. Am I making sense, or you got questions and thoughts?
Yeah, it does make sense. Mhm. And just using
Okay.
excerpts is really important and significant.
I
So
like it because a lot of times when students are reading like informational texts, even in earlier grades, like it's not, we know that textbooks are written at like grade levels above of where they're supposed to be. But like, I love these prompts because it has students actively reading and not passively reading. They're looking for answers. They're looking for information. So it's not just reading to get, it's reading to like look. I did a whole, when I was in grad school, I did a whole thing about like the SQ3R, like reading strategy stuff, but like it reminds me so much of that. And when I was doing my thesis and like collecting data and instructing students on how to use the SQ3R in a secondary setting, it really worked because because we've all read books where like we read paragraphs and then they're like, what did I just read? I have to reread that. So I really like this.
Okay. So we've done all of this learning about magnets. So now look at this, and watch what's happening in this. So now maybe what I'd like you to think about is explain what's happening here using words, sentences, pictures, arrows. You can use these still shots to see what's happening in the beginning, the middle, the end. You know that model you drew way back in the beginning when we first started this, 4 days ago, when we started this whole lesson? Maybe you want to take a look at that, and maybe you want to just use a different colored pencil or different something to put in your new pieces, or maybe you want to do a whole new one. But there's lots of opportunities and some choices for you to make here. There's choices for the student to make, there's choices for the teacher to make, and that's the point I want to make. So this could be anything, this final thing, but it's seeing the same phenomena in just a little bit different way, so that we're asking the kids to apply what they've learned. And the other thing, I guess the point I want to make is this obviously didn't take place in a day. This took place over a length of time, all of this. And there would have been more, those investigations, etc. And that's another thing, that a lesson isn't necessarily 45 minutes or an hour. And I think many of us had been programmed to think in that way, and it is different.
I really think that they would want to get their hands right on magnets and try that after watching
I
that.
bet they would too. Gosh, there's a bunch of stuff I know I didn't say that I wanted to say back the other way. The one thing I do want to say I'm going to go back to that slide for just a minute. One thing I want us to be very careful about, and I didn't do a good job tonight with this, and it's because we didn't do any investigations, but when we're doing those investigations, so I'm doing my investigation, I'm using my fishing wand, and I'm trying to pick up the different items that are attracted by the magnet. And we've done it, we've made our columns, and we've said, picked up magnetic, non-magnetic, etc. We've now come to the end of that investigation. And before I close that lesson, I want to say, and I want to make myself purposefully say, so how is this helping? What do we know now that's going to help us explain how that wand is able to move those iron filings around Wooly Willie's face? And I want to make sure I do that after every lesson, after every piece of text, after every investigation, because everything I'm doing is building. I'm building my knowledge base with the students, and I'm building and I'm expanding their thinking. Yeah, and that was what was really important that I needed to say, that I didn't do a good job doing here because we weren't going through it. Okay. So I have there's a document that I think Maggie shared, and I think I shared at the very beginning, and we can share it again, certainly. But there's a document that has all of the links from today. But one of the things that's on one of the links on the document is this website I have built that's it's a work in progress. It's called Science and Literacy. I am very willing to have people add pieces to it because I think it has such potential for resources for us to have, as Bertha talked about earlier, for those of you who were here earlier, that one place to go. One of the things I'm trying to do is develop something that's one place to go. And this is a website. So I want you to know that it's there. And now I think I'm probably done. I got to get back out of here.
It is
So
6:59. You are right on time.
Here I am. There's one link in that dot that's a Google, just 3 questions. I just would really appreciate it if you just take the time sometime to let me know how you thought about today's session. And with that, and there's also the last slide. I didn't use it in this one because I put it away, but it's in the PowerPoint. So now I'm going to stop my share. So
Bye, Susan.
bye, Susan. So bye, everybody.
Hey, Kathy,
You think I want to
there's
watch?
a good book and it's STEM kind of. It's all about like building and stuff. It's called Violet the Pilot. And it's actually, so my child in September decided that they were a girl and didn't want the name Harrison anymore, and came home from school and had been asking me about all sorts of names. And I was like, all right, well, no child of mine is going to be named Liberine, so let's figure something out. And found the book Violet the Pilot, and has been Violet ever since. And it's a book about a young girl, and she just builds airplanes, and she has a dog named Orville, and it's just it's just a very like fun book that could be, I think that can be used to engage students in like engineering and stuff. Because I was looking at your website and I was thinking about like reading and science, because what I struggle with, and I think that we all struggle with to be honest, is reading about science is not doing science, but
Right.
using the books as a springboard into science activities and science learning could be a really great like gotcha activity. You know, I did a professional development. I've done 2 professional development days where we did a fairy tale STEM, and it was specifically for pre-K to 1st grade. And it was, okay, you have, because that like, especially in pre-K and kindergarten, like the focus is getting students to read. And so how can we leverage what stories they're already reading? And so thinking about, you know, we were pulling, we have books like, you know, the 3 Bears and you have to make a bed, or like, you know, things like that. But some of the books that were coming to me from like, because we have a program here where kiddos from the Dolly Parton library get like a book a month until they're 5. It's like excellent. But one of them is the Violet the Pilot. And my brain was like, oh, kids could have like engaged in engineering designs and creating like what would their, you know, airplane flying device be? And even in my own brain, like I connected that to what I was doing in 11th grade, where, you know, we were doing a rocketry unit in physics. And they're like, oh yeah, we know how to build our own rockets. And I gave them the stuff and they're like, well, where are the instructions? I'm like, there are no instructions. You are building your rocket.
Well, you know, I mean, I think it's so true, especially K2 it's so hard. I didn't have any idea where to go, what grade level, so I just grabbed onto magnets. But I've done some stuff with earlier grade books. One of the things I'll put on the website is I've created Padlets, right, that are just literally of the different books, and I want people to add to them. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of where I'd love to go with this. You know, the website has such potential, but like I was so glad Susan was here and asking those questions, because that, you know, she's coming, we're hearing it from a 1st grade teacher asking, you know, how can I do this? And she does, you know, I think she does so much of it, but it's not, you know, and that's why I was trying to make the connections to her forest classroom. When I, you
There's
know,
a lot of outdoor place-based
activities.
But you know, this is very timely, because we and Shari, I don't know what I'm going to stop the recording for a second.